This is Talk the Devils, the athletic show dedicated to Manchester United. Coming up today, we discuss Bruno Fernandes' latest comments about exactly what happened with him staying at Manchester United last summer. Lots to unpack there. We'll have a look at United with AFCON now affecting their selection as they head towards an Aston Villa game where their record is really good. And that's both Aston Villa's recent record, but also Manchester United's head-to-head record against that opposition. We always like a trip to Villa Park. Let's hope the weekend is exactly the same. Let's say hello to everyone. First up, Carl, Andy, Critch, how are we doing? You okay?
All good, thank you very much.
Well. That was a lovely silent nod collection that I was presented with there.
Perfect for the audio format.
Yeah, it's great. But I mean, it works for YouTube, I suppose. So that's good. Let's get straight into it. So we recorded our last episode on Tuesday, shortly before these quotes began circulating from Bruno Fernandes. Critch, it took a little bit of investigating to work out what he'd said, who he'd said it to, and actually the accuracy of some of the quotes that were being put out as well. Can you explain first?
Yeah, so this interview went live on a Portuguese television channel called Canal 11 at about 10:45 on Monday night. So really not that long whatsoever after the final whistle sounded at Old Trafford after the Bournemouth game. And really the quotes over here in England only really started to come out the following morning. The channel, Canal 11, is actually run by the Portuguese Football Federation, strangely enough. They've got their own channel. I was speaking to some people in Portugal this week. They say it's a really excellent channel, actually. They've hired loads of top quality sports journalists, good debates on it. They even asked whether Cristiano Ronaldo should be dropped from the Portuguese national team. Apparently they always end up saying no, he shouldn't, but they do at least have that debate as well. So it's good independent stuff. But slightly strange that it's come from the Portuguese Football Federation. They did an interview with Bruno at Carrington. It was held a few weeks ago, where he spoke very openly, very candidly, with a couple of journalists that he trusts and he knows well. They didn't just speak at Carrington, they went to his house. And this interview was shown in two parts over 2 nights, the first part of which went out on Monday. And the first part was really the one where he spoke most openly about the situation in the summer that, we've talked about a lot already. Laurie obviously interviewed Bruno himself in October with a few other journalists from the Manchester Pack, where again he was very open and frank about the fact that he had the offer on the table from Al Hilal. He went to the club and said, "Look, I've got this offer. If you want me to go, I'll go. But if you want me to stay, I'm happy to stay." And in the end, he ended up staying. He went a little bit further in this interview in Portugal on Monday night, where he essentially said that he felt hurt because the club didn't unconditionally say, "We want you to stay." The club's message to him was more, "Look, we're happy for you to stay. We want you to stay. But if you want to go, it's a lot of money and we're not going to say no." Now, he had, I think, said similar in the interview in October with journalists from Manchester, but it was certainly a lot stronger this time. He said he was hurt. He said he felt that the club didn't have the courage really to go through the decision. He essentially thought that deep down they wouldn't have minded him leaving the club, taking the exorbitant amount of money that was on the table from Al Hilal and rebuilding the team with that money. So that was what he said. The difficulty was that because this interview went out in Portugal, it only went out on Portuguese TV. Due to rights issues, it wasn't published on Canal 11's website. I'm yet to find anybody or any upload of it online anywhere, essentially. So it only went out on Portuguese TV on Monday night, again, when a lot of English journalists were busy at Old Trafford filing copy on a 4-4 thriller. So it's been difficult to verify the quotes totally. Even speaking to people at United, I think there's a question mark over whether exactly what was said. I think some of this was news to them slightly before it came out. So it's been quite a challenge to get things 100% nailed down, but clearly they're very strong quotes. And I think the tone and the context of them is accurate. And it sent shockwaves, I think, through through Manchester United this week, just because it's not every week that your captain gives a bombshell interview of this nature.
No, that's true. Thank you for that explainer, Critch. We always have you on when there's complicated things to go through. So you played your role brilliantly there, mate. Thank you. I mean, Andy, it is stronger, the quotes that we've seen this time, than the version of events that Bruno Fernandes has given in the interviews that Critch mentioned with Manchester journalists earlier on in the year. I heard him talk in the summer about this situation as well. And certainly, again, this version is much stronger than what I heard him say too. So what do you make of it? I mean, it does feel like there's more to unpack here. Maybe it's a situation that we need to keep an eye on moving forward.
I think there's a bit of semantics. Speaking in his mother tongue to journalists he trusts is different than speaking in a secondary language to people with different constituents in Manchester. There's two sides to this. I'm always interested in how players leave Manchester United, because there's often two very different versions of the truth. If you ask Paul Ince for his version, it is completely different to Sir Alex Ferguson's version. But Ferguson's version is the accepted one because he's the manager who won everything, and Paul Ince ended up playing for Liverpool. But there's so many different versions when players leave clubs. Bruno Fernandes didn't ask Manchester United to leave. Equally, Manchester United were pretty... Look, you've got a contract here, we're going to honour that contract. Yeah, but do you really want me to stay? You know, it's just, how much do you want me? United wanted him. Ruben Amorim definitely wanted him. United fans definitely wanted him. You've got two big backers there. And then had he gone to the club, which he didn't do, and say, I want to leave, United would have then gone, all right, if you want to go, we're not going to keep you against your will, and you're going to pay a fortune for you to leave the club. And then you can argue rightly or wrongly whether that would have been a good move last summer. I think it's a much stronger argument this summer, given his age and given the rebuild that Manchester United are going through. But I was glad that he stayed. I think he's was and remains a really important player, really good captain for Manchester United. But you get this quite a bit from players. They didn't want me enough. And I just think there's a little bit of ego. I'm not too perturbed by it. You said the word bombshell. I can see when you look black and white what the quotes look like. I don't think it's a massive issue.
Carl?
Yeah, I'm largely with Andy in that this sort of reconfirms or highlights things that we more or less knew earlier this year. The door was open for Bruno to leave, but no party was willing to walk through it. It really feels as if Bruno wanted United to make a bigger effort to keep him, and United would have liked Bruno to make a bigger effort to leave so they weren't necessarily the bad guys, if that makes sense to me. But he's still here. I'm mostly glad he's still here, mostly because I didn't trust Ineos to use that 100 million properly last summer. We'll see what happens this summer. It does also, the releasing of this and the fact that we're still talking about it does make me feel like Bruno Fernandes is more than likely to leave this summer after the World Cup. I don't know about you, Ian. I don't know about you, Andy and Critch, but I just keep getting the sense that post-World Cup, there might be a shaking of the hands and a departure now.
Yeah, Andy, going back to what you said a moment ago, when you said, I wonder if it is more of a conversation this summer. I mean, the problem is, when United haven't had Bruno Fernandes in the team, they don't look like Manchester United, do they? He's such a key component, and even the other night, it was his free kick that brought about that turnaround from 3-2 down. We've said again, the role he's playing in midfield is very different to the one that he's played throughout his career. I'm not sure if it's as well suited to him as the role that he's played throughout his career, but he's certainly given it a good go. Again, I saw a report published this week that said he'd played more minutes than any other footballer in the world of the outfield players in the last 3 years. He's played a lot of football for United. He's a very important part of it. So, can he really just leave in the summer and United be okay?
We don't know. The key is selling players at the right time. Bruno Fernandes will be 32 in September. He's one of the best paid footballers in the world. He has been the best Manchester United player of the post-Ferguson era. Consistently good, very good captain. There's times when he does irk fans with his petulance, but the pros heavily outweigh the cons with him. Very good captain in a very complicated dressing room with a lot of different characters, and I think he knits that well together. I think he deals with the commercial demands, of which are numerous, in a really good way. I think he talks well, especially to Portuguese journalists who he really trusts. At some point, he's going to go in it. And when players leave, it is very rarely harmonious because there's two completely different perspectives. At some point, a new player is going to come into his position. Will it be for next season? Will it be the season after, or the season after that? You could do a lot with the money if you sold Bruno Fernandes in terms of the players who you could bring in. But as we speak at the moment, he remains hugely important to Manchester United. And consistently so. And them stats we saw this week, which the lads were talking about, the number of games that he plays, the lack of injuries, the chances that he creates, even though he's changed positions. You know, this is a United team undergoing a massive rebuild. And for now, but not for 5 years' time, he remains hugely important. At what point do United go, actually, would sell? Because that's a huge amount of money. In 4 years' time, in 3 years' time, in 2 years' time, in 1 year's time. There will come a point where there has to be a negotiation about his future. I think history will remember him extremely well as a Manchester United player. And as I said the other day on the pod, it'd be such a shame if he didn't win a league title as a United player because he's been good enough. And you see his frustration the other night when the goals were going in.
Completely.
He's like, I can't do any more. And he can't.
Yeah, Critch, one of the things that stood out from the translation of the interview was, lately I feel like I'm on thin ice. What do you think he meant?
I think when he used that phrase, if he used that phrase, as we still haven't seen this Portuguese version of the interview, but using that phrase, it was in the context of his age. He's a player that's over 30 years old in the Premier League, and he was speaking generally that it's such a competitive league. There's such a focus on squad building and getting the youngest, most exciting talent, that when you reach that age in this competition, in this league, in this environment, you are, you feel on thin ice. You feel that you're not for long at the club after that. I don't think, so if this turns out to be his last season, I don't think we're going to be that surprised. I agree with the lads.
Less surprised than maybe we would have been last summer if he'd left.
Certainly, because we've had like 8 months now of this conversation ongoing underneath the surface and the groundwork being laid and set. It's not to say that he will. And look, the same counter arguments that were being pushed around last summer, and which I largely agreed with, to be honest, they'll still apply this summer. And I don't think his importance or his centrality and his influence on this team has diminished one bit. I think there's maybe even an argument that it's grown. But the thing
his leadership qualities, definitely. And I know there's a leadership group, but you look at the leadership group, there's not many of them who play every week even. So, that is obviously a very important group around the squad and around Carrington and on match days in the dressing room. But actually on the field, Bruno is one of the few who actually is guaranteed to play every week in that group.
Exactly. And so his importance has never dimmed. What I think Andy's point about the money is a key one. Bruno himself, in the interview he gave with Laurie and the others in October, was saying there was between 80 and 100 million on the table. And I think from United's perspective, you've got to ask, how long is that amount of money going to be on the table? We reached the summer, he's on a 1 year plus one contract. Again, it'll be 32 this September. When you get to that stage in a player's deal, in a player's contract, it's often the time where you've got to make some difficult decisions about, okay, extend or sell. We're approaching that point, and for that reason, I could understand if United thought, well, this money's there, we need to take it. And the money, it's not just any old 80 to 100 million bid either. It's Saudi money. It's cash up front. It won't be paid in installments and with crisp packets, or if he, gets this, if he makes this appearance here or there, or if he wins the Ballon d'Or or whatever, it'll be cold hard cash. And that's something that United have struggled for in the past few years. It's something that they've desperately needed, really, in order to, help finance and rebuild the squad. And I think that's another factor what's made the offer so tempting when it came in the summer. If that is there again on the table this summer, then they're going to have to seriously consider it.
Andy, you've said a few times that United are looking at two central midfielders to complement what they've already got and improve what they've already got. So we've had so many emails about this. Sean, for example, has said, the club are publicly going after the likes of Adam Wharton, Carlos Baleba, Elliot Anderson, looking to spend big on midfielders potentially. Is a sale of Bruno Fernandes the way to be able to fund that?
Could be. They're not publicly going after it. Journalists are finding this information out. It's people finding the information out.
I did think that as a Reddit, sorry.
There's
sort of sub-editing as you go through these emails sometimes.
And there's three or four more players who Manchester United are looking at in those positions. And United will get one of the players. United are preparing as well as they can. But if you look at, say, Elliot Anderson, and I stand by absolutely everything I've said on him. Manchester City also want him. They could offer him probably more money than Manchester United, probably Champions League football. So there's whoever Manchester United sign, there's got to be a repeat of what we saw with Amad and Mbeumo, with Matheus Cunha, players who actively want to join Manchester United because they're miles bigger than someone like Manchester City. So we don't know how this is going to play out. Clearly, they're going to be well paid. If Bruno was sold for a lot of money, that money would absolutely help. United have got a bit of money. It's the cash is starting to get tight, but United will need to move players on. There's a bit more room now with PSR, which is my understanding, and I would expect United to be going for the players that I've said all along. A couple in midfield, a central defender, and maybe one other player. But all the clubs are going to be going for the same players because this number 6 is a key role for football clubs, and there are not many players who are proven in the Premier League of doing it. So United is a suitor, but these players will have other options. And there's other names that haven't even got out there who Manchester United are looking at, and maybe they'll go public. Maybe they'll say, right, we're actually going to sign this lad. Let's see.
He did write quite publicly going after, so there was a slight caveat to it. Are you all right, Carl? You just had a moment there when Andy was talking.
He was saying there's some names that have gone public. I'm like, oh, look at this. He's got some more here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, United would have a short list and a long list of players who they're looking to sign in different positions. So I think I gave the example on this pod maybe a year ago of a lad called Benjamin Šeško, where I said he was the number 1 target. So there was a number 1, there was a number 2, there's a number 3, and then you have a box below that with your 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then you have likely wages, likely transfer fee, likely probability of moving on. They've got to be realistic. If Manchester United tried to sign, I don't know, a top player from a top club. If Manchester United try to sign Rodri from Manchester City, look at you, you're fishing for me. I can see your eyes here. It's not going to happen, is it? So there's got to be a realism.
You brought his name up, Andy, in the conversation about the other midfielders at Manchester United.
I'm just giving you the eyes here.
I know you are. You're looking at other names. United are well prepared in terms of far better than 2 years ago, in terms of looking at who they want. Just because you want a player does not mean that player is going to join your football club. But the positions which Manchester United want to strengthen are absolutely clear. And when I heard a central defender, when I first heard it, I was like, what? But I'm not the one making the decisions here. And if you look at some of the players who are playing in defence, Harry Maguire isn't probably not going to be around in 5 years' time. When is he going to leave? You can see how all these moving parts come. And I'll wind back to what I said at the start of this season. Half the players won't be here in 2 years' time, and I stand by that.
Okay, for more updates on Manchester United's interest in Rodri, tune into the next Talk the Devils, where Andy will bring us right up to speed. I'm joking, obviously. Right, let's talk about something else, because the Africa Cup of Nations is just days away now. Obviously, Manchester United's players have now joined up with their international teams. 2 of them were allowed to play on Monday night, 1 of them wasn't. We'll talk about that in a moment. But first of all, Carl, can you just outline the players' involvement, how long you expect them to be there, the fact that Amad and Mbeumo are actually in the same group is a detail that maybe people aren't aware of just yet. But yeah, whichever way you look, it's obviously an issue for United, but it'll be interesting to see how the lads get on for the countries as well.
Absolutely. I mean, this is shaping up to be an absolutely wonderful AFCON. AFCON has been getting progressively better the last 3 or 4 tournaments. Part of that is due to just increased funding from FIFA. So Infantino in October was in front of the CAF federations and spoke about how more than $1 billion had been given to the federations to use as they wish. Some nations like Morocco and Cameroon and Senegal have used those to use that funding to build their version, their centres of excellence. So their version of Clairefontaine, their version of St George's Park, so to speak. And you're seeing that progression in their national teams. I think you're also seeing the smaller African nations, so to speak, are getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And now you can't have a team like, say, Ghana just go, well, we're Ghana. We've got a big golden generation. We're just going to qualify for this and reach the quarterfinals. I'm saying this as Ghana haven't even qualified. And then last 2 AFCONs, they got knocked out in the group stages. So very much an AFCON that is getting stronger. It's getting better. These are 24 team tournaments now. So it's not just the top 2 going through the groups. Highest ranking 3rd place teams will go through as well. If you're looking at this tournament right now, Morocco are the heavy favourites because they're the hosts. This is a tournament that they should win. However, I've said it multiple times, you don't actually want to be the favourite before AFCON starts because it just paints a target on the back of your head. I think Senegal have a really good chance of getting really deep into the tournament, as do Tunisia as a sort of dark horse. I think they can 1-0 their way to a quarterfinal, semi-final without anyone noticing. If you gave me a shiny penny to bet on the team, I'm going to give you DR Congo. But if you are looking at this, Morocco should be winning this. So that means Mazraoui is probably going to be on national team duty or with his squad until mid-January, shall we say. I would expect Cameroon, despite just wide institutional chaos and a huge falling out between Cameroon president Samuel Eto'o and the head coach, who is supposed to be Mark Brie. I say supposed to be because I'll have to do another podcast explaining all the weird stuff that's going on in the Cameroonian FA right now. So there's that. And then Ivory Coast are the holders. Just a fascinating way how they won the last AFCON. They sacked their head coach after the group stages, got sort of really grew into that tournament and then beat Nigeria, who was supposed to, Nigeria, that was a heavy favourites for that one going to the final, but won the final 1-0. And that was a tournament that Ivory Coast hosted as well. So, yeah, the interesting stuff for Manchester United fans is all 3 of your AFCON players should be getting to the quarterfinals at the very least. It'd be disappointing, if not shocking, if Cameroon, Ivory Coast and Morocco didn't reach the quarterfinals. I can't wait. I'll be doing some AFCON coverage from Manchester for the Athletic as well. So now we got a dedicated page for it on the website and on the app.
Yeah, great stuff. Keep an eye out for that, certainly. Yeah, Group F is the group of death. There always needs to be one. That contains both Cameroon and the Ivory Coast. So that means that Mbeumo and Amad will be head-to-head. They'll play each other on the 28th of December. Mozambique and Gabon are the other 2 sides in that group as well. Like Carl says, though, 3 teams potentially going through in the group, so it means that it's unlikely that one of those teams should crash out and be the victims of the group of death. If they did, they'd be back for the Leeds game, I think, basically at the start of January for United. So that means that they'd only miss 3 matches. The likelihood is that it's going to be more, like we've explained before. Morocco's group is more straightforward. It's Comoros, Mali and Zambia. What are you going to watch, Andy? Because you're going to AFCON. What have you got planned over there? Will you be seeing the United lads in action?
I don't know.
You don't know?
All I know is I'm going from Leeds to Fez, right, on the 5th of Jan.
Yeah.
And I've got a place in Fez, thanks to a listener to this podcast, Andy.
Oh, Andy came to the live show in London as well, didn't he?
Yeah. So he's got a get in the Medina in Fez, so I've got to get from the stadium.
It looks beautiful.
I haven't got tickets yet. Yeah, it does. Then so I don't know who I'm going to see. Then the next day I'm going to go to Rabat, and then I'm going to Casablanca and Tangier. So I don't know. I'm planning it all now. If anyone can help me with the answers to these, can I watch Manchester United Burnley on a TV somewhere in Casablanca?
Definitely, unquestionably.
Right, well,
beIN Sport will have you covered.
You saying yes? I need to know where, because I need to watch it. If anyone lives in Rabat or Casablanca or Tangiers, help me out, please. So I'm going to travel around and speak to people. I'm going to go slowly. I'm going to travel back over land. I'm going to go into Ceuta, the little Spanish enclave in North Africa. Maybe travel with their team to a game in Spain. Maybe go to I'm just going to mooch about for a bit because my wife and kids are away. and speak to different people. Look at new stadiums. Have you seen the stadiums Morocco's building? They're like the best in the world.
They are tremendous.
They're the best in the world. Morocco are brilliant at football as well. Went to Tunisia last year. The fan culture's really good in North Africa. I went to Egypt as well to watch Zamalek. These are strong teams, you know. These are like top 35 teams in the world. Egypt, Tunisia, Algeria. Look at the players Algeria have got. They've got brilliant players. So I'm going to support whoever I decide when I walk into the stadium. And I don't know who them teams are going to be.
Andy, you're in Fez. You should support Morocco. Come on.
Yeah, but what if Morocco aren't playing? I can't just go to a game and say I'm a Morocco fan when there's two teams playing there. I'm just going to go with the flow with an open mind and let's see what the food's like. Let's see what the people are like. Let's see what Morocco's like.
See what the football's like. Yeah, and obviously you'll be on the podcast throughout your trip as well, so it'll be very interesting to hear how you get on and what matches you end up going to as well. One issue to clear up, actually, Critch, if you can, you wrote the piece on The Athletic about it. Noussair Mazraoui not, in the end, getting permission from Morocco to play in the game against Bournemouth, and Manchester United not very happy about that.
No, I first tried to write about this topic and this story a month ago, and I couldn't believe at the time that United, or nobody basically, didn't have any answers about when these players would actually go to the tournament. And I was like, it's only 3 weeks away. And still, even on Monday morning, we were still not entirely clear whether Amad and Mbeumo and Mazraoui would be available for the Bournemouth game. Now, as it turned out, we did the story on Monday afternoon that Amad and Mbeumo were in the squad. We were still a little bit unsure on Mazraoui, to be fair, but once the team news came out, obviously it was clear that he hadn't been around. It's since transpired that United held discussions with all three federations in order to try and secure a later release date for them. They managed to do that with Amad and Mbeumo, obviously with Cameroon and Ivory Coast, but Mazraoui, Morocco weren't having any of it, basically. Now, United aren't too happy about this because they feel they've been unfairly treated, I suppose, by the way that the game fell. It was a Monday night game. It was on the day that FIFA said we'll extend the deadline until Monday the 15th of December for players to be released. It's not United's fault that they had a Monday game. They've had so many Monday games recently, and even if it had been the original release date of the 8th of December, that was the Monday night of the Wolves game. So, you know, there was, even before they extended this, there was a question mark about whether United would be able to have their players when other Premier League teams haven't really had this problem. They've just been able to play them this weekend. So I understand that they've got a point on that front, but I think you've got to be able to see both sides at the same time. You know, Morocco, they're the host nation, would put a lot of money and effort into hosting this tournament. The favourites, as Carl has mentioned, got a great chance of winning it. These players, all three players, have been given additional time beyond what we would normally expect for an international tournament. And look, Mbeumo and Amad played on Monday night. They could have got injured. They could have easily picked up something that would have ruled them out of a really important tournament for themselves and their nation, despite the fact that the federation agreed to it. If Morocco were a little bit more cautious about that, I can see why. So I think, you can see both sides ultimately. I understand why United are a little bit disappointed because they've been given so many Monday night games, and it was just the way that this situation fell meant that they had question marks over their players where other teams in the Premier League didn't. But I can understand Morocco at the same time saying, no, we want Mazraoui here, and FIFA backed them up, and that's how it ended in the end.
What impact do you expect this to have, Andy, on the team? Because, you know, they have been unquestionably important components of Manchester United's side in the early part of this season. All three of them at different points, really. I know Mazraoui's had his injury issues, but Mbeumo started every single game. Amad has been a brilliant feature, whether he's played as a right wing back in the number 10 role or whatever he was doing the other night. So... You know, it's definitely an issue to solve. It feels like a reason why we saw that shift in formation, if indeed we did see a shift in formation on Monday against Bournemouth. So what do you think they'll do to be able to cope without these players?
Given they're losing the whole right side of the team, shrink the size of the pitch and lobby for 8 against 8. That's what I think they'll do.
Just bring the goals closer, like when you don't get quite enough for 6 aside. Just pull the goals in a little bit, it'd be fine.
Should get mutual agreements with other teams who are losing players in the AFCON. Go, look, we're both losing players, let's play 8v8.
Feels like United are quite badly affected though compared to other sides. I mean, Bournemouth the other night, Adley wasn't even named in the Moroccan squad, so they had no one missing for that match. looking at Aston Villa, I don't think they've got anyone missing either for the game at the weekend because of the tournament.
Yep, it is a worry because they've been very, very important players. I wouldn't say consistently so because, Mazraoui's been out injured. Amad is a delight to watch most of the time. And Mbeumo's dipped a little bit, but has been one of Manchester United's best players this season. It's a worry. I think most United fans will be watching it just hoping that they come back as soon as possible and hoping that they don't do well for their country. The players themselves will have the complete opposite view of that because playing for their country is a huge deal. It's a massive competition for all the reasons that we've explained, and they're actually playing for cracking teams as well. I think what Manchester United will do is make use of the relatively small squad. I'm more comfortable about Mason Mount starting now because he's become a very effective player. For example, you may see Dalot switch back, Patrick Dorgu. These are the type of things which I would expect to see. Hopefully one or two of the defenders can come back so the injuries are not as pronounced as they have been, and just get through it really. Because as Carl said a couple of times, it's a really important stage of the season. You can have these mini league tables. And if you're getting to the end of January and Manchester United do not look like they're going to be qualifying for European competition, I wouldn't say panic stations, but something will need to be done. United have got to stay there or thereabouts right throughout this period. And tough games, Villa, we're going to come on and talk about that. Newcastle having a bit of a struggle, but we saw what they did last year at Old Trafford, and we saw what they keep doing at St James's Park. Leeds, they're very tough away. I watched them play Liverpool a couple of weeks ago, and then you're into they're
much better at home than they are away.
They're much better at home.
Definitely.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, and it's an interesting environment and atmosphere at Ellen Road for any Manchester United side, so that's always a fixture to look forward to. Tin hat time, I think, for that one. I mean, Carl, when you look at it, obviously the adaptation the other night, we spoke about it on the last podcast and how important Amad was to be able to have that manipulation down the right-hand side in United's formation. So obviously they can't do that. I don't think there's anyone who can replace Amad in doing that either. So what do you expect the next step of this coping mechanism to be for Ruben Amorim?
I'm fascinated by it. I think Amad's 1v1 qualities when he stands the defender up and then he just blows past them. You can't replicate that in that squad. Okay, you can play Mason Mount as your right side of 10 instead, and Mount is a high presser, but he's not a dribbler or ball carrier in the way that Amad is. He can't hit a ball with his left foot in the same way Amad does, so that'll become tricky. I largely agree with Andy in the changes there. So Diogo Dalot right wing back, Patrick Dorgu left wing back. I think it's quite fortunate that Benjamin Sesko's got back to full fitness now as well, so you just whack him up top. Will be interesting to see if Joshua Zirkzee can get some minutes in there as well, possibly as a 10, or indeed if Ruben Amorim goes, let's play Bruno Fernandes closer to the goal and give more minutes to either Manu Ugarte next to Casemiro or Menu next to Casemiro. That would be interesting there. Totally agree. We'll have to see if one of De Ligt or Maguire is I suppose one of them might have to consider playing through the pain barrier to get through some of these minutes. But
he didn't sound very positive about that prospect, Amorim, at the end of the press conference the other night, did he?
He did not. And the way he's spoken previously, it sounds like Harry Maguire's been playing with a little bit of pain this season. We know he's done it so in the past before. He obviously had a painkilling injection in his hip for a lot of the 2019-2020 season too.
I'd be interested to know the last time Harry Maguire played without pain, to be honest, because he seems to have been managing stuff constantly throughout this period.
Harry Maguire, there was a point in time where Harry Maguire was alongside Bruno Fernandes as one of the ever-presents who was just playing club and country minute after minute after minute. And then obviously your body does break down a little bit. There's the Sam Allardyce quote about Sam Allardyce said the human body is like a bar of soap. So the fact that Bruno Fernandes can keep ticking he's an incredible exception there. This is really strange because there were 2 or 3 Premier League clubs, I'd say, in November, you're going, AFCON's going to really hit you hard. But because AFCON is often a movable feast and squad call-ups didn't work out the way you'd expect, they haven't perhaps been affected in a way. I was looking at Sunderland's squad going, Adingra, absolutely, he's going AFCON. And then Ivory Coast didn't call him up. So you never know.
He's not been playing that much either, to be honest. I mean, I think they had 7 players potentially going to AFCON, and even when you looked at that initial list, there was only, I think, 2, maybe 3 of them who were regular starters for them. And Typical, isn't it? United aren't playing Sunderland during this period, so they can't get them. And they've already beat them, I suppose, this year. I mean, Critch, the obvious thing is to stick Sesko in up top, like Carl was saying. And it is an opportunity for him, for Mason Mount, maybe Kobe Mainu, to remind everyone of their quality and to actually have a proper run at this as well while the players are away.
Yeah, that is one upside of it. I think I agree with the lads that the changes that you would make to the immediate starting 11 are really obvious, and it's great that Sesko's back in time in order to go in there, because then you've got Dalot, Mount and Dorgu, and that in and of itself could have been a starting 11 at any point this season. And so it feels like
if they were playing the way they started the season playing, but the way they played the other night, does that then mean that it's not as obvious as we think it is?
Well, when it's down there on paper, it still looks like it can be that shape. I think the biggest takeaway from the other night, and there was definitely a change because Ruben came out afterwards and said, right, we've been training the back four this week. And so they would look, I think that absolutely nailed Laurie's story down as, it was accurate, and there was definitely something different about it. But I think one of the bigger takeaways that we had from that was that it can look similar on paper, but the fluidity of it within a game means that it adapts into different shapes. And to be fair to Amorim, he's said that consistently throughout the season, hasn't he? So I think, but that was the biggest takeaway for me the other night. So like I say, I don't think the starting 11 is really a concern. What I am concerned about with this now is the depth, because United have had to really sort of ride two horses at one time this season. On the one hand, they've known not going to have European football. Turns out there's no Carabao Cup either. So there was an onus on them to have a very shallow squad, shall we say, and there was players moved on. I'm thinking, for example, Rasmus Højlund, who would have happily stayed, but there was no game time for them. And then others have been sidelined without having nearly as many minutes as they would expect. And I'm thinking back to a couple of weeks ago when Sesko was out, Cunha had his head injury and was missing Altrincham Christmas lights, and you looked at the bench and it was really shallow. And you were looking for some sort of attacking change that you could make to turn a game. That game against Everton, for example, down against 10 men. It wasn't there. And that's the concern that I have over the next couple of weeks, is that, yes, on the surface level, the starting 11 looks fine. But if things start to go wrong in games, we have questioned that recently, whether Amorim can influence things from the bench, whether he's got that level of game management. Sometimes he simply hasn't really had resources to rely upon, and I feel like that could be a theme that it rears its head again over the next couple of games, certainly while these players are away.
Okay, well, before we go a little bit deeper on some of the talking points ahead of Aston Villa and preview that game, we need to talk about the women's side, Carl, don't we? Because they had a brilliant win in the Champions League last night against Juventus, and it means they will have more matches in the competition to look forward to now.
Absolutely. So they already had qualified for the playoff round, but this victory over Juventus confirms them 6th in the league phase, which means they are away from home in the first leg in the February playoff, which is good. Get to go back to Leeds Sports Village for second leg, figure out everything. The good news is they're going to play 11th or 12th. The draw for the playoff round will occur at 12 o'clock UK time. So by the time the listeners get this, they might know, but we don't know at this point in time. So we one of Atletico Madrid or OH Leuven. Please forgive me if I got the pronunciation of that Belgian team wrong. You're smiling, so I've definitely got that wrong.
I would love to confidently correct you, but I'm going to let you carry on.
Okay, so a Belgian side that Arsenal defeated 3-0 yesterday. So all of the Champions League games kicked off at the same time on Wednesday night. The Belgian side only won one of their league phase games. So they are ideally the opposition you want. United beat Atletico Madrid 1-0 away from home in the league phase earlier. And that was a real, Diego Simeone-esque performance. United went down to 10 players and sort of just ground it out. Not great for the highlight reel. I quite enjoyed it because it's fun to sort of thumb in the eye an opponent like that once or twice. So really, really good. United got 12 points from a possible 18 of this league phase. And when that draw was initially made, I think I made some sort of noise.
We both did, didn't we?
Yeah, and the prospect of playing Wolfsburg, Juventus, Lyon, that's going to be really, really difficult. But they've navigated it really, really well. The winter break in the WSL has already started, but it's still League Cup action against Spurs again on Sunday at Lee.
Let's hope it continues where it left off in the game last weekend, because that was pretty exciting, wasn't it? And hopefully it's a Manchester United victory this time around. Right, let's talk about Aston Villa. Critch, we mentioned before that there is some doubt still over Matthias de Ligt and Harry Maguire and whether they can be involved in this game or not. But unquestionably, the defence and the defensive record is becoming more and more of a problem that needs fixing, no matter who the personnel is for Ruben Amorim.
Yeah, he didn't sound optimistic about either of them being available for this game, certainly on Monday night. But it's been a few days since then. He's obviously talking tomorrow, so we'll see what the latest is. I think there's a fair argument, to be honest, that if De Ligt was playing on Monday, that United win that game. He's been one of United's better players this season. I think he's shown his organisational and leadership skills, and I just feel that, you know, Aidan Heaven's come into the team. I don't think he's disgraced himself whatsoever, but I think when you look at that defence right now, you can tell that in him and Lenny Yoro, it's got a couple of young centre-backs there who need time, who are still learning the trade. And Lisandro Martinez as well, obviously he's returned, but I think he needs minutes. He needs to find his rhythm as well. So the defence feels like it's in a little bit of a state of flux. That's recently. I think over the course of the season, though, we've sort of seen these trends anyway, haven't we? And I think one of the more concerning things is that United feel like a team that don't give up loads of chances, but the chances that they do give up are quite good ones. I think that's been a pattern that we've seen.
Well, the first half the other night, it felt like they made one error pretty much in the entire half, and somehow it was 1-1 when that error was made. And the error wasn't even made close to the goal necessarily either.
No, and it feels like if you can just knock the door in, then the whole structure sometimes falls down. And I wouldn't necessarily even call it a structural thing. I mean, that goal itself, that was a great finish by Semenyo, wasn't it? So a finish that he's perfected this season, scoring against Fulham, similar goal, like from the angle. So it's not like you can really point fingers or there's a consistent theme, but I don't know if it's individual errors. I don't know if it's the fact that injuries are just affecting them. Again, some of the inexperience. Lenny Yoro's not had his greatest few weeks. I think he's starting to come back into it a little bit more after having to come off against Crystal Palace. I just think United are suffering a little bit at the moment for whether it's injury, whether it's that inexperience, just a lack of form. That isn't helping. I just find it difficult to pin one reason why the defence has been so shaky this season. And, Senna Lammers as well. Look, he's come in and I think we've all been impressed with what we've seen. There's been a few question marks over the last couple of games as well now. And still he's dug out a couple of saves in the last few minutes that rescue the point. It just feels like a team and a defence that needs to find a bit of form and a bit of rhythm, and they just simply haven't had that of late.
Yeah, Ahmed Walid's written, Andy, on The Athletic about, some of the issues that United have got with controlling games and managing games when they've been in the lead. There's some very interesting data and graphics in his piece, so I'd recommend people to go and have a look at that. But Amorim's spoken about it as well, how he feels that United have struggled to control moments in matches when they have been ahead, whether that be late on or certainly at the start of the second half, like we saw against Bournemouth the other night as well. Is it just a mental thing, or how do you think United go about solving it? Because, I mean, the clean sheet record, I'll spell it out in a moment, but, one all season, basically, it's nowhere near good enough, is it?
It's not good enough. And Ahmed's a top man with all his data, and I spoke to him a lot of times, but we can see with our own eyes at the matches. We can feel it. You can see when Manchester United are ahead in a game, there is a nervousness, which is in the stands, and that's because on the pitch we know what we're seeing all the time, and we're seeing teams, doesn't matter where they are in the league. Burnley at Old Trafford looked really dangerous at times, and I think as the team improves, as you get better players in, as some of the younger players become more experienced, ideally this is going to happen even less, because Aidan Heaven is a huge talent, Lenny Yoro's a huge talent, but they're teenagers, they make mistakes, they have very good games, then they drop off for a couple of games as well. So the hope is that it becomes more infrequent. It's really frustrating, Ian, because you've seen really good attacking football undone by rivals, just cutting through Manchester United's midfield and defence. Bournemouth didn't have a fraction of United's chances the other night. They were ruthless. They took those chances. And you're a neutral, it's very exciting, but we're not. And it's really frustrating. And the team cannot keep a clean sheet. So this is how it ends. You bring better players in. You bring players who can control the game better. And you try and shed this unfortunate tag of Manchester United being consistently inconsistent within matches and being unable to control the games. It's the most frustrating thing about this season watching Manchester United.
Ahmed's piece is really, really good because it talks about how United have difficulty controlling matches. And I think since the Sunderland game, I've been looking at United and looking at how they look to control matches. And I think the interesting thing for me is I think United try and control matches more via the scoreline rather than how they use the ball, if that makes sense. So there are times when I'm watching a Pep Guardiola team, a Thomas Tuchel team, even Gareth Southgate's England, where will have 10 to 15 minutes of deliberately boring football where they slow things down and they're just circulating possession. And that's their version of control, of just...
United can't do that, can they?
United cannot do that.
Not at the moment.
There is no version of... And the reason why a lot of these teams do it is they go, well, if we have the ball, you can't score. We're just going to deny you possession. And you also see other teams that will try and control games by denying you space. So you either just drop really, really deep or you consistently shuffle, sort of play snowplow football and get the ball shuffled out wide. So if the other team does move the ball, it's in less dangerous areas. One of the problems with United is very often the ball they do try and funnel the ball out wide, but you get an instance like what we saw against Bournemouth, where Semenyo goes, oh, okay, I'll just burst through all of you and do certain things like that. Amram in his press conference is really interesting. I think it was after the Brighton victory, where he was describing the defending prowess of Shaw and De Ligt and how high they pressed. And he said, when we have someone like Harry Maguire in the team, we're stronger when we're defending close to our box, when we're defending quite deep. Whereas when you've got De Ligt and you've got Shaw, you can defend quite high. Now, when you miss both, you can't really do either. Lenny Yoro, for all of his talents, I don't think is the best centre-back in the air. Aidan Heaven seems to be better suited to playing as a wide centre-back than in the middle because he's quite aggressive. When he sees the ball, he's going to run up and push up and do that. Lisandro Martinez, very, very sorry if you listen to this and you're 5'9". I don't think Lisandro Martinez can play middle centre-back. So you've got Shaw right now, who's a wide centre-back, and we're still eyebrows up saying, can he play left wing back? But it looks like he's going to take that left centre-back role. Until one of Maguire and De Ligt returns, you're going to have a suboptimal option at middle centre-back. Although I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit of Lenny Yoro middle centre-back. I want to see it like maybe the last 20 minutes of the game to see how he can do there. And like you're right,
I don't know whether the aerial concern that you mentioned before would prevent that, and that's why Aidan Heaven's been picked ahead of him in that position in recent times.
So you've got that too. And then your right centre-back role, it just seems to be much of muchness there. And I think that's probably having an effect on why United can't defend as high up the field as they want to, because they don't have De Ligt and his pace, and they don't really have the ability to just hunker down deep and just keep heading balls away. See, I did an invisible nodding across there because I'm thinking Harry Maguire. So yeah, we just need one of Maguire and De Ligt back, and I think things should hopefully be alleviated after that.
The other issue for United this weekend, Critch, is the fact that Aston Villa are quite good, aren't they?
Are they?
Oh,
people will question that, Ian, actually.
Okay. I mean, they've won 15 of the last 17 in all competitions. It sounds strong.
I mean, it's all right, isn't it? It's not bad, I suppose. No, look, I think there's this question mark over Villa at the minute, because if you ask all your data and your stats guys, and maybe Carl can elaborate on this as well, but you look at the underlying metrics and they don't quite match up to the results. Now, teams do overperform sometimes, and sometimes they sustain it, and maybe Villa will keep doing that. And certainly, given the way that they started the season, the turnaround has been really impressive. And maybe they're in a title race. Maybe that's a discussion for an Aston Villa podcast rather than this one. But I do look at them and think, can this last? Can they keep going like this? I don't know.
I'm liking this, Critch. Keep going, mate. I don't want to know about how good they are. I want to know about the concerns.
Well, I think they've been scoring a lot of goals from outside the box. So I think that's point number one for United's game plan on Sunday has to be to try and prevent them from shooting outside the box. Normally, you would want a team to do that because it means they aren't getting chances closer to your goal that they're more likely to score. But Villa have been quite adept at that. If a team is scoring a lot of goals from outside the box, though, it suggests that they aren't creating a load of efforts and a load of opportunities. And that was certainly the case for Villa over the last few weeks. Now, they've had a couple of results, particularly recently. That Arsenal one, for example. I thought they were excellent against Arsenal, so I'm not saying, they're a total busted flush. Absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think that maybe they're in a little bit, they just seem to be in a little bit of a false position. They attack through the centre. They don't really have much width. Who's the right winger? Does anybody know who Aston Villa's right winger is? I can tell you if you want. It's John McGinn, isn't it?
They played McGinn, don't they? The captain.
Yeah. Tucked in, yeah.
So it's a team that likes to play through the middle of the pitch. Now, maybe that is, I'm sort of talking myself out of this now, but maybe that is set up to target United's weaknesses. We've seen United struggle quite a bit when they've been overloaded in the midfield this season. I'm thinking of the Fulham game.
There's no Casemiro either, is there?
No Casemiro. He's obviously going to be a miss. Interesting to see who comes in for him. I'd imagine it would be Manuel Ugarte, given that, Cobby's fighting for Bruno's position, as we've been told over and over again, but we'll see. I'm not totally pessimistic about this, though. I feel like, United have really thrived against teams that have afforded them space. I think that's why we've seen such an uptick in attacking recently, both in the Bournemouth game the other night with their really intense pressing style, and then Wolves, who seemed to want to have a go because they thought they could beat United and then got absolutely slapped down. I think both of those game states really suited United. Villa like to play with a high line. They're obviously in a great run of form. I think they'll want to take the game to them, and I think that could play into United's hands a little bit.
I think one way of measuring how good a team is when they play each other, you give 3 points for the winning team and a draw if you draw the game, and then you collate a league table. And if you look at the league table, Aston Villa are doing exceptionally well considering they didn't win any of the first 5. But I'm being slightly facetious. Critch does have a good point. Villa have only scored 13 at home, which is pretty low given where they are in the table. Almost all the victories, apart from 2, have been by 1 goal. I know it looks pretty ominous, but even though United were really bad last year, managed to get a pretty convincing draw away at Villa and beat Villa at Old Trafford. A bit of a dead rubber, except it wasn't, because that stopped Villa going into the Champions League in May. And United did play well that day. So they're going to be pretty vengeful for that. But I'm personally pretty vengeful because Pau Torres plays for them and he was in that Villarreal team which stopped United winning the Europa League. Whether he'll play or not remains to be seen, because they've got a lad who played 90 minutes at the weekend called Victor Lindelof. He's from Sweden. Look at Villa's bench, is pretty strong. Villa have got Emery. He is an exceptionally good manager. He gets the best out of underperforming players most of the time. We were talking earlier about judgments when to let a player go. He's really good at that. If you looked at Douglas Luiz, there was a bit of, what, you're selling him? He called it absolutely right at the time, and he's done that throughout his career. I hated the way that he was bullied when he was the Arsenal manager because of his imperfect English. He's technically very good. Tactically, he's really switched on. But I'm still not that uneasy about Manchester United going there, because if anything this season, where United have been really unfancied away from home, they've done well. Crystal Palace, Liverpool. Villa's only defeat in all of this run was actually at Anfield, which is another weird one, which just shows
such a strange game.
Yeah. I didn't watch it actually, so you might tell me that they were brilliant and dominated.
No, they were terrible.
Right.
So this was obviously after Arne Slot said, we have a weakness against long balls, and Villa went, okay, we won't do that. What are you doing?
So Rodgers didn't get that goal. That was pretty controversial, wasn't it, at Old Trafford last time around?
Yeah.
Watkins, United could have signed Watkins for this summer.
He's not had a good season. Which is really interesting. And I think the fact that Villa have almost compensate for the fact that Watkins doesn't seem to have the same burst of pace as last season. The thing about Villa and Unai Emery's teams that always fascinate me is they're incredibly functional. And you know exactly how they're going to play. They got three, you know exactly how they build up from the back. And it's the same way every single time. And yet it eventually works. I had a friend who described it as that one person who's actually read the rule book of the board game that you're playing. So that one person who actually knows how to play Monopoly instead of all the invented rules you got in your house. And in the Premier League season where so many teams are going through a transitional period or having some form of implosion, I should say, just being competent and having players perform to the sum of their parts and the team perform to some of their parts, you can end up third place and on the verge of a title race. So I'm worried about it. Morgan Rogers he has these ebbs and flows. He's a really interesting player for me. I think sometimes he reminds me a little bit of Dele Alli from about 2016 sometimes. But I don't know. United have a good record, and the last time they played Villa in December, I thought they were going to lose, and then they had a fantastic December day. So let's bring it on.
The 0-0 draw there last season's the only time in the last 6 that Manchester United have failed to beat Aston Villa. 5 wins aside from that. Longer term, 3 defeats in 26 years for Manchester United against Aston Villa. So the record is very, very strong. There's no question about that. And I'm just going to finish on something that might titillate you a little bit, Andy Mitten. We had a message from False Swine on X who said that if United beat Villa, it will be the first time that the goal difference has been as good as +5 since the end of Erik ten Hag's first season in charge, which was May 2023. So that'll be something to excite you this weekend, Andy, won't it?
Yeah, I mean, my excitement would come from United beating Villa, because that would be a real...
Would you be more happy that United have won the game, or that the fact that the goal difference has gone above that little marker?
By a considerable way, United winning the game.
You do surprise me.
Love Villa Park, one of my favourites. United's record there is really good. United fans proper got to get behind the team. It's a big, big game, this. Yeah, it is a tough one. Villa scored 4 against Bournemouth. Unlike United, they didn't concede any. So they can, they beat City, they beat Arsenal, they've had some really, really good results. We can pick apart of them, overachieving or whatever, but they've done what Carl said. They've got the results. And the way this league table is, there is a space for anyone who can get that consistency, and they're in that space.
Yeah, it'll be a tough afternoon at Villa Park, there's no question about that, but we're going to leave it there on Talk of the Devils. Carl, Andy, Critch, thank you so much for being with us, and thanks for listening and watching as well. We'll be back after Villa. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching this episode of Talk of the Devils. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you've not done already, like the video, and also get involved in the comments too, and click the bell to make sure that you never miss an episode with myself, Andy Mitten, Carl Anker and Laurie Whitwell. There's also our social channels at TOT Devils on Instagram, X and TikTok. Thanks for watching.